So thank you, everyone. I'm Nick Thieberger. I'm the current director of Paradisic. And we're here because Paradisic has been such a fantastic project over such a long time. I can't think of another project of its kind in Australia that's gone for 18 years. And I just want to mention, we started with a one-year grant in 2003, and I just want to read the names of some of the people who were CIs in that grant because it's their work. So there was Alan Marrett, Bill Foley, Jane Simpson, Linda Barwick, Peter Austin, Dave Nathan, Nick Evans, Janet Fletcher, John Hudgick, Kathy Falk, Stephen Bird, Sunda Adela, Andy Pauly and John Bowden. So they were the original CIs on the first grant, and of course we've had other CIs over many bits and pieces of grants that we've had to put together over the years to make Paradisic work. So Paradisic, we are celebrating 100 terabytes, but in fact we're charging along at the moment. We've got 115 terabytes, and probably tomorrow we'll have 116 terabytes because it's just taken on a momentum that's scary. The earliest collections of that we targeted were at the ANU, and they were, looking at collections of deceased or retired researchers, and these were tape collections that nobody was looking after. And really, that's where Paradisic's strength has been, is locating these tape collections and digitising them and making them safe, because they would now otherwise have perished. A lot of those tapes were not in good condition, and nobody else was going to look after them. In 80 years, there are many, many stories. I can't tell all the great stories, but there is this wonderful vision of Paradisic people. Every time we drive somewhere, we have a box of tapes in the car. So we drive to Sydney, we take tapes up there, we bring tapes back from there. And this way, in fact, if we'd have tracked it in some wonderful modern visualization, it would have been quite a cute thing. But, and sometimes it's 10 tapes, sometimes it's 200 tapes. And the same going out into the Pacific. So, we do have 115 terabytes. We've got 1,270 languages represented in the collection, close on 14,000 hours of audio in the collection. So those figures don't really give you a sense of the beauty of the material that's in there. So we built a thing called Soundscape, and if you Google Paradisic Soundscape, you'll find this gizmo that plays 20 seconds and gives you a really, I think, a nice sense of spoken word and music in the Paradisic collection, which is a sort of a nicer way, really, of feeling what actually is in there. It's not just hours of tape, it's not just terabytes of stuff, it's people's heritage and it's beautiful performance, and that's all in there. One of the most gratifying things, of course, is when we get responses from people who find their ancestors in the collections, and we've had this a number of times where somebody from Papua New Guinea, somebody from Australia, because we also have Australian material, gets in touch and says, thank you, this is my grandfather and I can now listen. And that's one of the main motivators for doing this work. Obviously there's a great research focus for Paradisic, but the other one is this wonderful community focus that we have. And on Thursday night, we'll have a podcast launch, which is another great engagement that Jodie Kell and Stephen Gago have led, of taking material from the collection, finding somebody who has a connection to it, and then talking to them about that connection and making a podcast about it. So that's a wonderful thing. I don't want to keep going too long because we have a packed agenda, and I was going to read the words about I'll try and do it anyway. So we have the conference, the theme of the conference is Hearing the Ancestors. So in Noongar, I was told I had to use the back of my mouth. Voice from Bubui Kambak, Entendre les ancêtres, Fa'aro Itemau Tupona. So welcome. What I'd like to do now is ask Linda, the founding director of Paradisic, to come up and say a few words as well.
Well, thanks everyone for coming along and for contributing to our celebration. I remember back in 2002 when we were putting together the original application, we really it was a really wonderful process of engagement of people from different universities, different disciplines, saying, what have we all got in common? And one of the things that we all had in common was this anxiety about what was going to happen to analogue tape materials. So anthropologists, oral historians, musicians, musicologists, theatre studies people, and of course linguists of every description all had this common cause, and that was part of what we were trying to address. And we had a couple of meetings, I remember, in 2001, 2002, where we kind of trialled doing some digitisation and finding out what were the pitfalls, taking advice from our wonderful national institutions about the best way to set our systems up. Very lucky that we came along at a time when the national research infrastructure was being established and the idea of distributed and networked computing was coming into reality. So GrangeNet, which was this experimental arm of what's now ARNet, was a great supporter of ours as well. So having humanities data as being part of the foundations of the Australian digital humanities and digital research landscape was also part of that vision. And it's thanks to the hard work of our staff, but also of the contributors and the wonderful advice that we've received from so many people who have contributed their cultural heritage data to the archive that we are able to still be here 18 years later. And I just want to particularly acknowledge the contributions of some of our Paradisec staff over the years who've been with us from the beginning, like Nick, Amanda, Frank Davey, who was our audio technician back in the day, and of course our current staff. So Stephen Gagau, who's a wonderful contributor, keeps us on the straight and narrow in so many ways. And Jodie, of course, Nick Fowler-Gilmore, who's our sort of Sydney-based audio expert, and so many others in our satellite facilities at ANU. Julia Miller has been really driving this fantastic expansion of material in Paradisic as a result of the Centre of Excellence for the Dynamics of Language project, for which Paradisic has been the archive of record. And of course, my wonderful colleague Nick Thieberger, who's really driven. I guess it's been a partnership that we've all been part of over these 18 years. So thank you so much to everybody who's contributed and who will contribute into the future.
Thank you. So, a project like this requires leadership, bringing teams together, bringing people together in a way that brings out the best in them. And Linda is the person that's displayed this leadership to us. And in the way of the Pacific, we now do custom to Linda. We acknowledge Linda's work over many years. I first met Linda in 1985, I think, in Western Australia, and we had a joint interest in Italian folk music through the Ethnic Music Centre in Perth. And then it turned out later on we had other mutual interests and we continued to work together. So it's been a great pleasure, and really without your leadership it wouldn't have happened. So we all Thank you. You're going to have to touch these things. Yes.